Hello there guys, what is going on? Daniel Charles back here again. Hope you're doing really well wherever you are watching or listening to this. We are in a manic time really covering Chelsea. We've got the Club World Cup, which is busy enough on its own, and on top of that you've also got transfer season happening, and we're signing Joao Pedro, we're signing Jamie Gittins. But I thought get back to sort of old roots and speak to someone who I actually haven't spoke to in a while from a Chelsea point of view. If you are online and have covered and have followed the Chelsea team for a long period of time, I'm sure you have come across this guy's, specifically his Twitter account from back in the OG days of Chelsea Twitter. But now he has his own YouTube channel that you definitely should go and follow, especially for FPL stuff as well. So I just want to say quickly, intro to my good mate Scott Clayton, also known, probably mostly known by the name of Carefree Youth. How you doing, mate? Great to have you on the show.
Hey, well, I'm happy to be here. It's been a long while since we spoke. People are starting to know the real Scott instead of the carefree youth. Who is this guy? Hopefully, and people will hopefully appreciate what I bring in the next few months on the YouTube channels.
I can't say I'm an FPL player myself or fantasy football in any way. There may be something coming in the new season that means I'm going to have to get involved a bit more, which I think it could be quite interesting content. But in terms of that and also just covering the club, I mean, I know obviously from back you had Patreon stuff that you used to do, articles, very well linked up in terms of the obviously the Cobham side of Chelsea. But how have you found the reaction so far, getting involved from the YouTube point of view?
I've had a good reaction. Yeah, it's new and it's not massive. I'm sure you already know that the comments aren't as wild as they are in on Twitter, so it's not been as negative. So yeah, I've had a lot of feedback, and people just tell me to relax and stop being so stressed about it, because you know once you hit that record button, you start to then worry. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, and I'm getting a good bit of reaction and good bit of feedback. It's hard though. Sometimes you think you're going to do good content, and then somebody's obviously going to say, "No, this is wrong. This is wrong." But it is what it is with social media. But yeah, I'm enjoying it.
No, good to hear, mate. And I think what you just wanted to have here is kind of a bit more of a relaxed, laid back chat about Chelsea and about what's going on at the moment. Because as I said, it's a bit strange at the moment that you've got multiple things at the same time going on. Firstly, I just guess your take on the Club World Cup. I was fascinated going into this tournament how fans were gonna react to it in terms of like how seriously they're taking it, but especially with what happened against Benfica, the longest match ever, it seems like people are pretty, at the very least, invested into it, and obviously want to see Chelsea do well. How have you found this very unique tournament, and sort of your overall take so far?
When going into it, I wasn't feeling like I'd take it that serious. I'll be honest. I was looking at it thinking, yeah, I watched that game. That one's at late. Maybe I won't watch that one. Yeah. And then as the games have gone on, I've found myself getting more and more invested, and not even like watching every game. And I'm really like, before it was like, oh, I'm just taking this as like a Conference League pre-season kind of vibe, just whatever happens, happens. But now we're getting further and further along in the competition. I'm now like, come on, how far can we get? How good can we do? So yeah, I'm finding it really, really good now. But early, early in the tournament, I wasn't that invested in it, but now I am. What about yourself?
No, I think it's similar. I think it's still very hard mentally from a lifetime really of watching Chelsea in America in pre-season and at this time of the year, whether it's late, early UK morning time, and kind of changing you have to sort of trick your brain into thinking this is serious, this is not
Mhm.
pre-season. But it's very hard with the state of the pitches. I'm not saying it's the worst pitch ever, but artificial turf, the not full stadiums, as I say, there is pre-season vibes around this tournament. There just is, and maybe that's my own bias of watching Chelsea only ever in the US from a pre-season point of view. We've never seen Chelsea
Yeah.
play competitive games in that country. So yeah, there is that kind of, as I said, there is that bias there is that expectation, and there have been things about the tournament that kind of have made it feel like pre-season. But as with you and as I think what happened in that Benfica game, that you could see how much it means to the players. You can see how much it means to Maresca. And um, I always felt the longer we went in this tournament, once you kind of get into like the quarterfinal stage, we got to try and win this thing and got to try and go all the way. I still have that trepidation on the collateral damage this is going to have on our season,
Yeah,
which I
yeah,
care more about still. Whatever happens in this tournament, I still care more about the Premier League. I still care more about the Champions League. Even winning the FA Cup, I still care more about that. Because we haven't done it in a while. I've seen us win the Club World Cup more recently, but I don't know. Is that a concern for you? I still in the moment maybe people aren't thinking about it, but I still I saw a Pep Guardiola quote about this quite recently that it's I still fear, even if Chelsea win this and the euphoria of winning it, I still fear what it's going to do to our season, which obviously I want to see us improve from last.
yeah. I do agree with you. I do fear it. I do fear it because I do think in the first few months we will be bringing it up. Yeah, these players haven't had a rest, and somebody's injured for a certain amount of time because some of these players didn't even have arrested. They went straight over to international duty and playing for England, Ecuador, Argentina into this tournament. Then they're probably going to have like what, a week, 2 week rest, and then it'll be pre-season training and getting on again. So it's gonna be massive. I'm hoping with the players like Asujio and Andre Santos and people like that we can rotate a little bit early on in the season and give some of these players a rest, and the likes of now was trying to buy two attacking players that hopefully will give us a chance to get 2-0 up and bring off a Cole Palmer, bring off a, do you know what I mean? That is what I'm hopeful for, and we can use our squad a little bit just because these first few months of the Premier League, I'm a little bit worried that these players are going to be a bit burnt out. That bit of Caicedo going down in the last match, every time he goes down, I'm worried. But we've got the cover. But it was the same with Kante. It doesn't matter who's on your backup. You always want the best players starting, and that's the Reece Jameses, the Caicedos, aren't they? And when they go down, your hands are in your face, like, oh no, I don't know what's going to happen. So I am worried about it because there's going to be a short amount of time to rest and recover, unless we do a very short pre-season and everybody that's not really played gets a chance. If it's an Andre Santos, a Sugio, they all get it, and we just kind of give everybody else a bit of a rest. So Caicedo only comes on for 20 minutes, and we kind of just build him up and play him the last pre-season game, play him like 60 minutes. Maybe that is the way we do it, just to save these players' legs, because it's Champions League football this year. There isn't going to be 11 players getting changed in the Conference League like last season, is it? It's going to be full on every 3 days. Every game matters, unless we get really high up in the Champions League and qualify in the fifth game, like kind of thing, and we can rest in the sixth game. But even then, it's 3-4 months down the line, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like that is something that it is going to be very difficult, and as well to analyze it, because you will get to a point where it's kind of, if Chelsea are, say, we hit October, November, and there's a real slump, and we're all kind of criticizing performances, or we're kind of concerned about certain things that maybe Maresca tactically is doing, certain player performances, you kind of will have, in some ways, people could refer to it as an excuse, but it will be the sense of, well, if those players that played in the Club World Cup and played all of last season are still playing and they don't look up to it, you can clearly make that link. And I think, Matt Law's brought up this point, just a general football thing of, if Man City and Chelsea are negatively impacted by the Club World Cup, no matter what they do in it, and of course the financial benefit of being in it is quite obvious, which may still override this general backlash against it. But I do wonder if other Premier League clubs, like the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal, Man United, who may aspire to be in that tournament in upcoming years, will think to themselves like, maybe it's not the best thing, but from a financial point of view,
Yeah.
obviously it is a very beneficial thing, as we've seen. And I guess because of that, like, naturally we're seeing this already. Discourse is, what are Chelsea doing with their transfer strategy? They're buying all these players. And I guess a counter argument could be, well, this is why we need a bigger squad, because of look at what we're going to have to handle with all these minutes. I mean, I was very, very critical of last summer. I just want to gauge your view so far, still in June. We're not even in July when we're recording this, but it will be out probably by the time we've hit July on my show. But are you positive? Are you negative? Are you kind of a bit more laid back about it? How are you finding the transfer window from a Chelsea point of view?
I go up and down. I have my positive moments about it, and I have a lot of worry with some of the things that happen, and I'm trying to just try and stop myself from moaning about it and just see what happens because like a few days ago, I was worried about Pong being sold to Borussia Dortmund, and a lot of fans, rightly so, said to me, "Scott, it's just a rumor. They're probably not going to sell him." But in my head, I was like, "Oh my God, they're going to sell him," and getting frustrated about something that's not really happened. So it's one of them where you have to try and, as much as possible, wait and see what happens until the end of the window to fully judge it. But when you're seeing some of the links and we're not getting a player like Mike Mignan for the price, and then we're going spending 110 million on two attacking players, and we feel like we need a number one goalkeeper, I do get a little bit frustrated. But I'm going to see what happens in the window because maybe Chelsea feel like they can get a younger goalkeeper with more what will fit more to the squad. Would I rather have a number one with experience in this squad? Yeah, but we will see. I'm trying to, as best as I can, wait and see with as much as possible with it, than just react to everything that happens this window, because I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt again, even though I know I shouldn't. I'm trying to just give them the benefit of the doubt and see, because when we got linked to Gittins and João Pedro, I wasn't like jumping up for joy about them. But the more I think about it, the more I think, yeah, they probably fit what Maresca wants, as somebody that can invert on the left. Gittins could easily do that, get on past his man and get a cross in and invert a little bit, and João Pedro can fit in a few of them roles. So they wouldn't have been the number one picks for me, because I always want somebody that just comes into the. If you're spending 56 million, I want somebody that's signed and in the starting 11 really, than spending 110 million on somebody that's could be like a backup. I'm not saying Gittins is definitely going to be the backup. With Sancho leaving and that left spot with Mudryk banned, there's obviously a spot there, but I feel like we should have gone for a bit of a higher tier. But I'm not against the signings of both of them. But I'm going to try and trust what they're doing at the moment and see what happens in the next few weeks. But there's a lot of worry because now we've got them two players. How much do we get for João Felix? How much do we get for Nkuku? How much do we get for Disasi when we've got other players like Anselmino and Sarr? And that's my worry, that we get to the back end of the window. No club wants to buy these players. No club can loan them because we've used all our international loan slots, and then we're just selling them for very, very cheap. But we've taken them off the books, which would be good, but we're probably getting less than we paid for. And what this was all about, basically, a lot of these players was buy them and never really lose much, just cut even at the very least. And when you give João Felix, you signed him last season, and now we're replacing him a summer later, and he's on like a 6-year deal. It's a bit confusing. You buy Sarr from Strasbourg, that um, isn't a club where we could basically sign him whenever. But if we send him out on loan, he's going to use one of our international loans. So I'm a little worried about little things, but all in all, I'm trying to, at best, just see what happens as much as possible. What about yourself?
The positive for me is that, unlike last summer, the players we've actually signed, or the ones we've appeared to be close to signing, so that's Delap, Gittins, and João Pedro. I think in all three cases, and Mike Magnon as well, who I might have already mentioned, there's football logic behind it. Even if you don't think that's like my top target, even if you don't think for the money we're spending, that's like the first choice, and there might be an alternative out there. At the very least, in the case of Delap, he adds a profile striker we didn't have last year. I think he, at the very least, improves hopefully our goal scoring output and just the option, the rotation option that Maresca for kind of a really decent level striker that we didn't have last year. And the physical side, and I think that there are vibes about him that I like already. So I like that. Gittins, from a left wing point of view, the way Maresca likes to use his wingers, I think Gittins fits into that. And it's not like what he's done at Borussia Dortmund is awful. I mean, 8 Bundesliga goals is not a terrible return in the top 5 European league for a player at the age of 20, is it? And he's played Champions League football already, and he could hopefully, and some numbers, you can make stats look any way you want to, but there's some people that look at the data and say, well, not only could he scale up, but he's actually, one of the better young wide players in Europe, and there's justification to be excited about that. And I think Dortmund are a very, very good club to buy from. That's just my personal view in the way they develop players. And Joao Pedro, despite the cynicism around him, if he didn't come from Brighton, I don't think there would be as much cynicism. I have to say, I think that's most of the negativity. It's, again, another Brighton player. However, I like the profile of the player. I think there's a flexibility to him. And I think that's the intrigue for me, mainly about Pedro, is that I kind of wonder whether it's the start of like an evolution in what Maresca's going to do at Chelsea. And we saw it a bit against Benfica, where he starts playing this kind of 3-4-3 system, where he's starting to the idea of playing inside forwards and who could fit that role. And I mean, it's a bit frustrating because you've had Nkunku for a season and you could have, now we're going to start playing second strikers. Why don't we just keep Nkunku? But whatever. It's kind of like he'd be perfect for it.
Yeah, Nkunku scored his biggest goal for Chelsea, and then the next day he reads that we signed João Pedro. It's like that's Chelsea's. You think, okay, yeah, he's doing well. He's scored a big, massive, crucial goal. I understand that Chelsea want to sell him, but yeah, he scores that big goal, and then the next day he's been replaced basically.
Yes, and I just wonder whether that is the idea, right, of potentially shifting, or at least having the ability to shift and get more options. Because the problem is, like, in the case of you do a Gittins Sancho comparison, and although they are playing in 2 different leagues, it's hard to argue that Gittins couldn't at least be an improvement on Sancho. And we don't know the impact that Andre Santos is going to have on the team. We don't know the impact that Esteval Willian is going to have on the team. And then there's also something in the back of my mind that keeps on coming up, and I think it's been evidenced by the Club World Cup, is, I look at a player like Pedro Neto, who I was very positive. He was probably the only signing last summer I was positive about, because I liked what he did at Wolves. His numbers have got better. He has been producing in the Club World Cup. So it's also probably a little bit flippant to ignore the improvement of the players we already have. That I think that's also something you got to factor in. Like, it's not that our players are stationary, especially being a younger group, that can't get better or and can't go to another level themselves. So I think I'm like with you. I'm not someone who's going to sit here and deny and rubbish criticism of the sporting directors, and that you can't be concerned, because I think there's last summer was enough justification for people to be concerned. But I don't know about you. I'm not gonna. You can't judge this window until September, unfortunately, or at least you can't do like a slam dunk, like this is my verdict on it, just based on what I've seen.
Yeah, and that's the same with me. And I'm one of them negative ones about the sporting directors. I've been vocal about that for about 2 years about them, but I'm holding myself back and saying, let's see and judge them this window again. Like, I know they've got past history that we judge them on, but yeah, I'm trying to give them another window. If they prove me right again, and they make a mistake, and it doesn't look great, then I will be talking. But I'm going to try and hold it back until back end of the window and see. But I'm sure there'll be something that frustrates me from now till then. It'll probably be a common player that's sold, which will frustrate me. But that's my own personal preference. I'm sure a lot of fans won't really care about it as much as what I would. So we will see. We will see with it. And I do like that Maresca is trying a few little different things in this tournament, because that's what I didn't really like about him last season a bit. sometimes it was like for like, and there was nothing like when we needed to win a game, it was nothing. There was nothing to change up or switch it up a little bit. Now it feels like we've got another another option with these players. If it's changing the formation, if it's yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this evolves, and if we do change the formation in the match, how it impacts it, because I think we was a little bit one route of a formation, and then we wouldn't change it. There wouldn't be options that we could change it in this side. But I'm intrigued to see how he deals with players like Reece James and players like that, because he was getting on a lot, getting up forward a little bit more. He keeps bringing on Malo Gusto. I know I'm changing the subjects here, but yeah, there's a few things I'm just questioning and seeing what happens in the next few weeks, especially this Club World Cup. And I'm intrigued to see what he does this next game against Palmeiras. What formation does he go back to his old one? Does he stick what he did against Benfica? It'll be interesting. And does Jackson come in as well? Delap's played the last 3 games, started the last 3 games. Does Jackson come back in, or does he just trust Delap? It'll be interesting, because that'll probably tell us who he thinks is his number one. If Delap starts again, I feel like he's telling us, I'm trusting the lap, and Jackson's days might be numbered and we could buy another striker. But Jackson comes back in, then it could change my thought process of maybe he sees them as both as being his two strikers and he doesn't really need somebody.
I like that Maresca is looking to be flexible and looking to find different ways to win football matches. Because I'm like you, I don't want this kind of ideologue who kind of. I think Maresca, like, he started the season and ended the season in a way that showed me a coach that was flexible. I think that middle period of the season, and I'll probably do some more analysis about this, soon, is that I think that middle period of the season was Maresca as advertised, but that was not good advertised. That was kind of what I didn't want to. I think the way he started when Chelsea looked free flowing, attack minded, started the season strongly, and he was a coach that was varying things up. He was changing things when he needed to, was being proactive from the subs bench. So it's kind of hard to know what Maresca in a second season is going to look like, because we don't have any evidence of him in a second season, because obviously he left Leicester after a year. Was it Palmer, wasn't it? He was barely at for about 14, 15 games. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
no blueprint there to look at and go, well, this is how he operates after he's had a full season with a group. So that will be of intrigue, and obviously that will be informed by how successful the transfer window is. Just to wrap up, we're early days right now, but we do have the fixture list that's come out, and I guess in a few weeks' time, and for a lot of clubs now, it's this week and next week when pre-season starts. So I'm still firmly of the belief that the Club World Cup is 25-26 and not 24-25. I'm probably one of the only ones still arguing that. It's an annoyance of me that people are adding up stats from this tournament. To me, they're wearing a new kit. It's this.
that's how I was just going to bring it
I'll
up.
give.
That's how I was going to bring it up. We're wearing the
I'll
new
give
kit,
you.
so
I'll give you. It's a middle. I'll give you it's like a middle point. I'll give you it's a
yeah,
middle point. But it's not, for me, it's 24-25 ended in the Conference League final.
yeah, I agree with you. Once you start wearing that kit, I know we wore it for the last game of the season usually, but we're wearing the new kit. It's the new season for me. It's a hard one, isn't it? Because it's so so in between them both. But for me, it's the new season, especially because we've not even announced any preseason games for the first team yet. So from right now, it's basically our pre-season for next season until we know otherwise about fixtures. And just quickly, what I wanted to quickly mention about formation is when we played Newcastle back end of the season, I feel like Eddie Howe changed his tactics a little bit, and I think Maresca was a bit taken back by that, and we got a bit found out a little bit. And I think this season we do need that bit of a change to make other teams go, okay, we don't know actually which formation they're going to play, so we don't know which ones to play. Do you know what I mean? That's where I think we need it. We need that second bit of change. So teams think, all right, we've worked on this type of tactic. We're going to pick this side to combat it. And then next thing they know, they've got two players in midfield instead of three, or three attackers instead of four. Do you know what I mean? That's where I think Maresca does need to change it, just to shock these managers and shock the way these teams set up against us, because they're going to try and stop us. We're now getting fourth in the league. We're now taking a little bit more serious than we was 12 months ago, from teams. People are going to really want to stop us, a bit more than last season. They're going to be working on how do you stop Chelsea, um, and to stop Chelsea, you don't want to just be one type of tactic, because what happened with Conte with Chelsea? Yes, he changed it to that tactic, and we won the league. But then the second season, everybody knew what we was going to do. So you do need to switch it up a little bit. And Pep's done that a few seasons. He keeps changing what he's going to do and how he uses his wingers. Does he put them out wide? Does he bring them in? Does he put two up front near the striker? So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens with that.
I think you do need to be varied. I think there are times when Maresca does. It's more like individual personnel tweaks that I think work out quite well for Chelsea. I think like his use of Tosin has worked very effectively. Like he knows if there's a game where, like from a set piece point of view, he's concerned about the opposition, he brings in Tosin. So I think from like individual, sometimes he can tweak. I think it's more. I agree with you. It's more like a general system thing of, yeah, you don't want to become predictable. You don't want to become um, very simple and very shallow as a team, and that was my concern watching us in like the January to March type period. I thought, he's creating a very shallow team here, and I think the positive about the end of the season is I think we did see a bit of adaptation, and obviously he got over the line. So now he has that gift of a second season. He can hopefully vary things up, and it makes Chelsea more exciting. What is your ambition for next season? Just to lay my cards on the table. I'm not saying Premier League title winners, but what I am saying is I'd like us to be closer to the eventual champions and under 10 points. So that probably means closer to 80 points, which we haven't had in a long time. What is that? Am I being unfair by that, or are you still kind of thinking it's going to be a slog for top four?
No, I like that now. Just after the Newcastle game, I would have said no to that what you just said. But the last 7 games, the from United, Newcastle, Liverpool, Real Betis, these Club World Cup matches, I'm starting to believe that again, especially that Benfica game, the way they like really showed that we are Chelsea, we need to win. That quote that Cornwall said since it's. I'm starting to believe in the squad that they're not just there to try and win. Their aim is to win, if you know what I mean. And the blip that we had last season, before that, we was doing well, wasn't we? Everybody was saying we're title challengers, and a lot of the Chelsea fan base didn't believe that. But I think if that comes along again, I think a lot more fans will start to believe, yes, we could do it. I think the main thing for me is we just need to get more goals in the squad, and I think we've done that with the signs of Delap and Gittins and Pedro. I think there's more goals. Sancho, as good as he is, wasn't a player that would go and take a shot and get a goal. Jackson was all on him, really, up front. And if he had an off game, we didn't really have much to bring on. So now we've got something different. And it was all really on Cole Palmer a lot of the time, wasn't it? And I think if we spread the goals out around the team, and we do have somebody that can chip in with 10, 15 goals at the wing up front, I've got confidence that we can do it. And I'm hoping that we can score more goals earlier on and start to rotate the squad. I think that'll be really beneficial for us. Last thing we want to do is keep having these 1-0 wins, and we have to keep playing the same 11 and not really making much rotation. I think for us, we need to get these goals and get these games won, get some players off and rotate and keep the squad fresh that way, because I don't think we'll be rotating as much in the Champions League. But yeah, I think we should be closer to the top now, this season. I think we need a good cup run in England. Champions League, I'm not putting myself past. I think we'll get through the group stages. I'm not sure what after that, because the way this Champions League is and how you get the teams, you could face a really good side. Even if you do really well, you could get a really good side if you got really, really bad, or a really easy side if you do really bad, even in the group stages, but qualify. So in the Champions League, I'm not too sure, but I think for the FA Cup, we need to be aiming for hopefully winning that and yeah, getting closer in the Premier League because it's been a good 7 or 8 years, hasn't it, since we've got under like 20 odd points from the top side. So we need to start closing that gap. I'm not going to put it on them to win the title, but that gap needs to be closed, and for us to then feel like next season, not this season coming up, the next season after, that we can actually win it. But these new players that are coming in just need to improve us and help us get wins instead of draws or draws instead of losses, because there was a few unhappy points dropped last season, and I think a lot of it was down to either Chelsea making a mistake or Chelsea not finishing the chances, basically, a lot of the time. And we could have easily won a lot of these games, but missed chances or a sloppy mistake meant we dropped 2 points or we lost.
No, I think in the case of, you look at Palace and you look at Ipswich, particularly the two Ipswich games, the fact that we didn't beat Ipswich, if you just had a couple more points, I think we could have finished in the final table. We could have finished as high as second, really, given that Arsenal kind of really dropped off and there was no real title race. I don't think it will be as low as that next season. You've got to anticipate that Man City are getting better. Liverpool are not standing still. Arsenal, based on their recruitment, look currently, as we're speaking, feel like they're standing still. But again, long window, they may improve. I think at the very least, you've got to anticipate that everyone's going to be better. You have to go with that starting premise, even if they don't, and we do have another weird season. You've got to go with that starting premise. And I agree with you that on a base level, I'm not saying that our new signings are going to take us to a Premier League title, because I think I don't expect that. But I think hopefully there is some improvement. And then, as you say, like, if you can get varied goals around, you hope the general floor of the team at least is being raised. Whether that gets them into a title challenge, I can't really sit here and tell you that right now. But no, I agree with you. That should be the aim. I think I would be disappointed if we're at the same point at the end of next season, where on the final day of the season it's kind of up for grabs whether we're getting in the Champions League or not. I don't think anyone could seriously sit there and go, like, maybe of course, context is everything, right? Maybe we do some mad thing in the Champions League and we go all the way, like, in the Champions League. And I'm not saying winning the Champions League, but like, if we go further in the Champions League than anyone anticipates, and that has obviously an adverse impact in the Premier League, maybe then you kind of look at it and you have to take that into account. But on the Premier League, I think we have to be closer. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say it's all about that first few months as well, isn't it? As we've talked about with this Club World Cup, if we look burnt out and we don't get to start the season off well, that could really impact us and where we finish in the league. I'm sure we'll kick on and get our legs back, but that early start of the season, if we were a bit tired, we might drop a few needless points where we shouldn't have. The fixtures look okay the first opening months, but yeah, I'm hopeful that we can pick up points early on and not start dropping points early on, because last thing we want to be doing is chasing, because that we don't want the fan base turning on either Maresca or the squad or whatever really early on, because I think that'll have a massive negative effect with the age of this squad. As I've quickly alluded to, it's 27 is the oldest, and Tosin and Sanchez and Nkunku's probably going to leave. So the oldest players are dropping down and down and down, and the last thing they want is a few months of negativity again. I feel like we need to start the season off well and eradicate that, hopefully, and then we can just kick on from that.
Hopefully. But yeah, we will see. We'll see obviously how the rest of the Club World Cup goes, and it's kind of an unknown at the moment how much it's going to impact Chelsea. But thank you so much, Scott, for joining me. As we said at the start, go and check out Carefree Youth, not only on Twitter, but also, I'm always going to call it Twitter, on Twitter, across the social channels, and also on YouTube. Links will be down in the description box below, whether you are watching on YouTube or via the podcast feed. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Have a great rest of your day. Check out all the content this week on the show. We are doing so much about the incomings of Jamie Gittins and Joao Pedro, so stay tuned for that, and I will see you again very, very soon. All the best.